social works, 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 yeah, S works, everyone put it in their hands. You know it's a vibe, they're waiting in line to get up and flood up the stands. Yeah, we in this together, we feeling like fam. It's all about peace, so pull up with friends. You better come through with you and your crew, cause everybody going in. S works, so we keep it lit. You can see how we move the city from the west side to the east. Ooh, you can feel how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. And S works what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works. Social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization, we stopping no Satan and open, but we call it Works. Action on tail of the killer verse. I do on my family, my city hurt. They killing our babies, this war going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Running schools for the kids. We the city, yeah, we lit it. All I know is it's work. Work hard, keep it busy. Know the life can be tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be a witness. S works, handle business.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works.
Ready or not, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't finna none. We came in the party, we here for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Sky's the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, S work, do your thing. S work, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. S work, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. S work, show some love.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Yeah, S works, everyone put it in their hands. You know it's a vibe, they're waiting in line to get up and flood up the stands. Yeah, we in this together, we feeling like fam. It's all about peace, so pull up with friends. You better come through with you and your crew, cause everybody going in. S works, so we keep it lit. You can see how we move the city from the west side to the east. Ooh, you can feel how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. And S works what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works. Social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization, we stopping no Satan and open, but we call it Works. Action on tail of the killer verse. I do on my family, my city hurt. They killing our babies, this war going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Running schools for the kids. We the city, yeah, we lit it. All I know is it's work. Work hard, keep it busy. Know the life can be tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be a witness. S works, handle business.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works.
Ready or not, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't finna none. We came in the party, we here for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Sky's the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, S work, do your thing. S work, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. S work, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. S work, show some love.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Yeah, S works. Everyone put up their hands. You know it's a vibe. They're waiting in line to get up and flood up the stands. Yeah, we in this together. We feeling like family.
Sworkshops are a series of online workshops featuring the many incredibly talented friends of SocialWorks. This series aims to inspire and educate, bringing local and national creatives live to your smartphone. They will be sharing and teaching specific aspects of their craft. A wide variety of professions, interests, and hobbies are represented within our curriculum. Did we mention it's a fundraiser too? The stay-at-home notice has students wondering what's to come. For some, graduation and prom will both be canceled. This campaign will directly fundraise a celebration event for those students within the Chicagoland area. Once it's safe, of course. Tune in to any of our socials for one or all of the Sworkshops. You can find the full schedule of programming at socialworksshy.org or on our Instagram. Classes start Monday, April 13th. We'll see you there.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Tuan Huynh. Capture on the Instagram. That's my art moniker. Welcome to this Sworkshop supporting the youth of the city for prom. Of course, when all this thing is over with, we're hoping enough to raise enough money to support the youth for their prom event. A little bit about myself. I work as a creative with an ad agency called Leo Burnett here in Chicago. And it's a full service ad agency where we create a lot of branding and messaging and campaigns for brands that a lot of you are familiar with, from cereal to the things that you wear to the things you use every single day, from cell phones to television, all that kind of stuff. Just campaign work through that agency. Personally, myself, I have a company called Captrue, where it's a little studio base where we provide a lot of content-driven material for smaller brands. Whether it be through video animation or simply logo design. I even done little promo stuff for a birthday. So a variety of things. Outside of that, there's a group of 5 of us. We started this small consulting group in Leo Burnett called Naomi. Shout out to my Naomi homies that's out there. We consult on cultural relevancy for brands, keeping up to date on the things that's happening today for brands and communicating the most authentic way. But with that, for me, I want to share with you about my process. Hang on, let me hit the switch. Yeah, sorry about that. I was in the dark there. But for me, I want to share with you today a little bit about how I even came to Leo Burnett and my process of building my portfolio, of how I told my story, my journey, not only through academics, but through the creative process, sharing you with that, how I did it and how I utilized those tools that was given to me to tell a story through my creative work and build a portfolio that, that an ad agency like Leo Burnett would would see fit to fit within their company. Mostly coming up with creative ideas and essentially developing the work for it. I came to, I went to a four-year university called Fort Hays State in Kansas. It's in the middle of nowhere in Hays, Kansas, called Fort Hays State University. Shout out to my school, my alumni. Uh, and when I was there, I was able to be part of this program, this design program, conceptual design program at Fort Hays State under the tutelage of Chai Watt and Carrie Voth Simpson Voth. Sorry, Carrie. Shout out to Carrie. Um, but from in that school, though, one of the things that are unique about that design program was they taught you how to think creatively, and taught you how to think literally like outside the box, right? Having little but creating with it a lot. So I credit a lot of my creativity, a lot of my um, skill sets that I've learned from that school. From because from there, we think about beautiful work, art. I started in fine arts. You can see some of the artwork around my crib, my studio space here. But I started with fine arts, but I ended with conceptual design, and now I do campaign work. But what that middle ground where the conceptual design thinking for me was that everything starts with a concept. And I remember my professor would always say, we live and die by our concepts, because, beauty could be fleeting, but design concept with an idea, an ideation that drives that work has a ability to be timeless. And that's always stuck with me on the creative work and the creative process is, spending more time on developing the concept. And I see that how it translates into the ad industry where I'm in now, and even some of the freelancing work that I'm able to do. And even just like thinking about the things in the community as well. It always starts with like an idea and a concept. So that really was something, the skill set that I wanted to perfect and get better at and I continue to try to do it every day because that's really a process that you will continue to develop, is to come up with ideas, fresh ideas that drive the work, drive the campaign, drive the messaging for the brand, tell that story in a way that's conceptually being told. So which is that's how I kind of started with that. And so one of the things as a student, I know I'm hoping that a lot of you are students and within college or in high school. I even been approached by like middle schoolers on how to build their book and how to tell their story through their work. And so throughout this process, I've been able to look at a lot of student work and give them creative feedback as well. Actually, next week, even with this quarantine, excuse me, I'm still doing we're still doing a portfolio review for my alumni with about 18 students, I think, to show their book, and then we give them positive critique, and they can earn scholarships through Leo Burnett under the Pencil Project and our scholarship program. So I've been doing that for about 5 years now, not only with my alumni but through Columbia. Done some for the DePaul students, and a couple Art Institute programs before. So I've done it at various places. So I picked up a pattern of things that students may need, and or people even trying to get into the industry. So it's not only students. I've helped with people that are already graduated and trying to break into the industry on how they can formulate their portfolio in a way that can help them land a job, or they're transitioning from job to job, or from one agency to another. I've been reached out to just helping to formulate on how to craft their messaging and their story and their portfolio, how them how they are communicated through the work, and how we can conceptualize and communicate their creativity, their talents, and their skill sets into a portfolio that a potential employer can look at and say, hey, this kid's dope. that they want to bring them on the team. But one of the things I realized that being in the industry is that people, creatives, that are, higher up looking for to fill spots, is that they look at creative thinkers. Like you don't have to be the best artist. Because I'm not the best artist either, but I tend to ramble off a lot of some random ideas. Some are good, a lot are bad, but they, within the team, you can help formulate and make that idea even better. So that's what I'm going to share with you today and I can start with my school project, and then I got a bunch of questions. I got a couple questions already. So I'll make room to answer those questions toward the end. Um, but let me start with some of the things I did coming out of school. So maybe that would help some of you students, or maybe that helps some people that might be transitioning to a new career or switching agencies or studios or whatever. So coming out of school, I built a portfolio book. When I talk about a book, whether it be a physical book or an online book, and then how we communicate, how I'll be able to share that with potential employers. There was several agencies that I really wanted to work for coming out of school. One of them was Lear Burnett. The other one was like Duffy in Minneapolis. A couple out in San Francisco, New York, and then VML in Kansas City, I think. So one of the things that was happening consistently outside of Leo Burnett was that when I would send out an email initially, I they're they don't get to see you essentially, and I got a lot of like denial more than acceptance, but I was consistent, right? So from from getting the first denial, I would respond back with like an animated thank you. And they're like, oh, that's dope. That's cool. And then I would send them like a leave behind. I'll send them this kind of like package material. People still crave like things in snail mail. I know that's digital world. I'm old school because I'm old. Um, but I still believe people want things that are, they can still touch. And while you're not there, how can you be present, right? So I would send them these, and they would open it up. I can go through this here in a little bit, but coming out of school, we would do these portfolio reviews, and how we would work so hard on building our book, and so this is what I came with, and this is what I would go to portfolio reviews with. Is this kind of hard? I mean, like a real material, real thing, like a real book, which I made with my hands, which why I really appreciate my school that I went to, Fort Hays State, is that we didn't have a lot there. We didn't have, we went in a big city where we could, just easily purchase a portfolio, send it to the printer and things like that. We would print the stuff ourselves. We would find source materials from, you know, thrift stores and whatever, or a local Walmart, and it was crazy. The town was like 22,000 people, and majority of those were students. So we didn't have a lot there. So how do we, build our book to compete with the kids in the big cities? And one of the things when we went to portfolios, man, from Kansas City, Minneapolis. I think we went to like in New Orleans. We traveled to Denver, Colorado. We were just traveling everywhere, and we were bringing our own handmade books, you know, um, and it made us stood out. It made us stood out. Some portfolio reviews we didn't even qualify for because they just say we're from these, we're just these random kids from nowhere. So but this kind of stuff kind of stuck out to them because each one of our books, in a way, told a story about who we are, and that really kind of mattered, right? So, like for me, my personal journey is that I'm a refugee from Vietnam, grown up in government housing, didn't have a whole lot, so that always kind of stuck with me, and like having a little but making a lot with it. So that embodied with a lot of the work that I do, even through school and even now, right? Like I can try to finesse things with little and not really bothering me a whole lot. And I just know that I got to get it done. So how do we compete with that? So one of the things that we did was just work really hard on our craft of not only just this book. So here, this portfolio, which I share with some of the students, I don't know if they're chiming in right now, but I've been trying to help a couple of students kind of like build their book, and it was like, how do you build your book? And I say, well, here's how I build my book. Um, and so this is something that I did, just like a masonite board with some screws. You can see the little screws right here, printed on this 11 by 17 paper. Actually, this was like double, and then I folded it. I printed on one side and just folded it. Got a little craft material I got from Walmart, with a little the hot glue to seal this thing together. The cheapest kind of thing you can possibly get. And then, in school, I created my little brand, which I can share with you how I transfer that into post branding and rebranding for my brand today. Created my own personal logo, a little birdfish. I can share a little bit about that later. And then some work and stuff that I've done in school, showing the process. So each one of these kind of, walk through the process and the story of not only the how I got to it, how I created it, what the brand stand for, and the idea behind it. Right? We were tasked to create branding for a cereal brand, but because we're from such a little bitty school, and we couldn't like mock up at this time. We didn't mock up anything on a computer. We just made it. So like I made these packaging, gluing it and stuff like that. But there was just an idea that started it though. So we were tasked for this particular project. Let me just make sure I don't run out of time for questioning too. But for like this specific project was we were tasked to build a cereal brand, and so I wanted to come up with something that's like healthy, uh, and how that resonate with just like any day uh, cereal eaters, but particularly cereal eaters that eat at night. Some of you might like it, some of you don't. But I know sometimes I still crave cereal at night. So I came up with this concept for the cereal called Eight Owls. Eight being the number of cycle of the workday, sleep, rest, and all that stuff. And how do you symbolize something that eats smart? So I call it Eight Owls. That was my cereal brand, Eight Owls. But we're you got to go beyond just thinking about it like that. So I created like an app for it. My portfolio is falling apart. That's how cheap it is. Created like an app for it to remind people of like healthy eating. You can scan the food to know if you're like allergic to certain items and things like that. Created a website. So I'm thinking about it holistically, a 360 approach. So this is just a couple of the projects that I did, like a paint store. I'm not gonna go really in detail of a lot of this stuff, but just having something that is tangible, something that you could share in an interview, in a meeting, over coffee, or whatever like that. To have a book present there too. I think these days some people just do an iPad, which is fine, which is all good. I think having something like this kind of separates you a little bit. I think it takes an extra step because all these things I do have online too. I have an iPad. I can take it around and share it with people. But it's something when I pull one of these, pull out my portfolio, my physical portfolio, and share that people tend to take a additional look at you as a person, and how you share that story and talk about it. And this particular project here called Chirpins is actually what got me a job. Shout out to Carrie, Soak Up at Leo Renette. I was very persistent in this particular project because it's really an easy task. It was just like, how do you rebrand clothespins, right? Like, how do I tell a story through clothespins? Like, man, that's kind of crazy. But I was really challenged by that to turn a 50-cent project into something that is marketable and sold at, like, you know, I don't know, World Market or some of the bigger stores. So I created branding around environmentally friendliness and awareness about the environment on through the medium of hang drying your clothes. And I went further by not only creating a campaign for it, but packaging for it, and develop an app that reminds people that when it's 60 degrees outside to hang dry your clothes, a notification goes off on your phone, and you know, are you encouraged to, you know, hang dry and wash your clothes. But also on the app, that when you are waiting for the laundry to be done, there's a map for you to find the nearest park, so that you could, you know, walk or run and be outside. On top of that, you can learn the language, learn Italian. It's like, why Italian, right? But it's I found out through my research, just to dive deeper into hang drying, is that almost 90% of Italy, people hang dry their clothes. So I thought that was super interesting. So to be able to connect friends that with the same purpose and habits in the world. So, you know, this campaign that I created for this thing, actually, I think, was the key that got me the job. You know, so shout out to Carrie and Lee Burnett again for checking out your boy's work. But yeah, so this is the physical book that I created. Now it just fell apart a little bit because I was, you know, going through this with you. Um, but that's that. You know, having that was important for me to share my story, my work, to potential. I saw Carrie with messaging. So that was really a key part of me trying to tell the story through my work and having people see it, but actually touch it. And as I'm there in person, you know, as distance we are now with social distancing, you know, everyone is have good practice with that. But one of the things that we crave because of the social distancing is, you know, connection. And it's the same way as we share in our work, in our talents and our creativity. We crave that to share it with somebody else too. And how do you further make that connection is through your storytelling of your work while they're in front of you, you know. So through an iPad or whatever, I can, you know, you can click through it. That's cool too. But having something I created, you know, not only from, you know, your simple thought into something that you can touch and into something that you can share, I thought that was super valuable, and I think that's kind of helped me land where I am today at one of the largest ad agencies in the world. You know, a cat like me probably should never walk through those doors, but I thank God for all those things. Um, All right, sorry about that. There was a technical difficulty. But I hope everyone's still there. I think someone had asked me to bring the portfolio closer. I'll do that again later on when I'm in answering questions. Okay, so I was at yeah. I would email people that for potential employers and share them my portfolio and things like that. And a lot of them, maybe it's just a bad time in the economy or whatever, but I would get a lot of denials. But I went like a little further. I I sent like a thank you that's animated in After Effects, thank you for your time and doing all kind of cool stuff with the video. And they responded back, oh, that was dope. Thank you for that. Thanks for taking the time. And then I would say, okay, if you don't mind, I'm gonna send you like my leave behind, a little bit about my work. So I had it on the website. They wasn't feeling it as much, I guess. Maybe it's my bad copywriting or whatever, but and then I sent them the email. Guess they wasn't feeling that either. And then I sent a thank you. They were feeling that a little bit. And then I sent them this package. This thank you. I dug this out. And I was asking Carrie again. Carrie helped me find this thing because she was the one that hired me. And I was looking for this thing for the longest time because I made 7 of these. I only made 7 of these. There's 7 places I really like because it took an hour and 30 minutes to put one of these together. Like I said, everything is like hand glued and printed and all kind of stuff. But through this thing is how I told my story because I'm not able to be there. And I have to say, out of the 7 places that denied me, after sending this to them, all 7 places offered me an internship or a job, which is kind of cool. So, but then I took Lear Burnett. I went to Lear Burnett instead. But here is I wanted to and when they're there to walk through a journey with me, with my work and how it came about. But also I shared stories of what like my professor, Chai Watt, shout out to Chai Watt, would share with me and with us and as students in school. So okay. So the one of the things that I started with was just like the cover, right? I shared about this little story that he used to remind us with. I don't know if you can see it. So there's these little lotus flowers, and there's these little seeds on the bottom, right? One of the things that he would say to us is that because I used to come in because I didn't know anything about graphic design. I kind of sucked at it. Didn't know anything about it, so I sucked naturally. I knew how to draw and paint and all day and tattoo and all that kind of stuff. I'll tag the wall if I can, but I didn't know anything about graphic design. Didn't know about packaging. Uh, so he would always remind us that we are a lotus seed waiting to bloom, and you would start at different levels in the program. And I was probably still stuck in the mud, so I was this little seed probably. But eventually you grow up top. You know what I mean? You get up top and you arrive and you blossom. So that's where I kind of lead into the book to open up. There's my logo, the birdfish. It still is today. That's it's tied into the story about our professor always and just be reminded that you want to have multiple skill sets. You don't want to just have one singular one. You want to learn how to fly and swim at the same time. um, so there's this little birdfish logo that kind of stuck with me to this day. And then you open it up and you kind of see these little hanging tomatoes, right? These little hanging tomatoes. This little saying that he used to tell us. Well, he told us one time actually, but I just still remember it because we're up like really, really late, and it's like 2, 3 days of staying up late working on a project. He comes in and plays this random song, "Hang On, Little Tomato." Google it. You guys can Google it. It's a so sad song, but at the end of the song, we sat there about 4 minutes listening to the song, and he's like, I know it's hard, I know it's tough, but hang on, little tomatoes. And I still remember that because I wrote it in my note and I put it in my portfolio. So that's a little story piece that goes into it. And then as you open it up, You open it up, you see even further, there's like these little illustrations that share about my journey, right? So here inside, I got these little illustrations of like bicycle parts. Then I said, I was given this, the bicycle parts, but I did with it, this. We built a crotch rocket. So, we came from, little, but we're asked to make a lot. I was given bicycle parts, but I made a crotch rocket. There's this line that sticks to me to this day, and I put into a lot of talks that I've done. Is that if you're not hungry, you won't hunt. It's so true, and I'm always hungry. I'm up late still doing tutorials today. Whether it be through Masterclass or Lynda.com or even YouTube. I I'm still up trying to figure out and get better because, man, I'm always starving. So if you're not hungry, you won't hunt. And your skills as a creative, I'm always growing. I'm always trying to expand my skill sets, trying to be better at what I'm doing already, and then what else I can learn, beyond that. I'm always picking up stuff, just curious about stuff. Like, let me see what most recently. Like, my guy Julian, shout out to Logic Julian. He's always doing these like cool little animations and video and stuff like that. Just curious what he's doing. So I just asked him a couple of things, and now I'm trying it, and I'm just having fun with it too. Or just like just seeing friends from afar that's graduated school. My guy Ryan Bossy, shout out to Ryan Bossy. I'm always following him doing illustration, seeing how he's doing his designs and stuff like that. And I'm following that and just trying to figure out how he's done. So I'm always hungry for that and just learning and curious. Just got a lot of design creative friends that are out there that's doing it, that's doing their thing. And I learn from my friends, but I'm also just learning just from, the culture and just learning just different ways that people are doing stuff creatively. And I'm just curious and then how I can expand my story and my skill set into that and make it better too. So I encourage y'all to do that too. And forever be a student, you know what I mean? So, and then continue here. So in here, I have this little kind of fold out. Look, I don't know if you can see it, right? So from the book, you open it up, boom, it comes out like this, what's this called? Dang it, I forgot. But anyway, you can fold it out. But here it tells a little story, my little creative line. I still use it today too, is that my creativity is derived from personal experiences and the popular culture that surrounds me. I've always been influenced by the culture that I grew up in, from the music to, to the wear, to the streetwear, to just clothing, fashion, music, poetry, to all those things have always influenced my creativity and then my personal journey, my experience, that's unique and different in its own. And that's a whole nother story for you. But here, that's always been my art statement is that my creativity is derived from my personal experience and the popular culture that surrounds me. Then I have these little illustrations of just places where I came from and things like that. But in this thing, you can perforate out. It's my business card at the time. You can these are all perforated out, and then on the back is like a statement that I wrote for potential employers, and then inside here is like little stories about things I really like. Like I enjoy seeing my work move on a screen. My journey began on a boat. I'm a refugee kid. And then brainstorm is my favorite part of design process. I value the rule of design, and then you can open up even further. You can just see like photography because I'm big on photography. My point of view is simple as point and shoot. I can just go on all that stuff, but I told a story through this process of my portfolio, so people can see it while I'm not there. I think that's important. For you to do it, differently. I find that because I made this thing, you could come up with a different medium. That's just something else that we're going to talk about as bullet points for how you want to share your story, what kind of medium you want to share it through. For me, it was this. For me, it's making stuff, being crafty and doing all that jazz. So, but on the back of it, I attached my cover letter that all these things can be perforated out too, by the way. Concordian, that's what it is. Yeah, Concordian. Yes, I forgot. Okay, so in the back, it's my cover letter. And oh, hold up, I don't know if she's still online, but this is the cover letter I addressed to Carrie Soka, who recruited me at Leo Burnett. So here is my resume that I included with some work that I did at another studio when I interned there and things like that. And then all that can be perforated out if they so choose want to perforate it out. And then you finally get to the part where my work is, right? So it's where the window into my work essentially. And this is where it says that how I use all these things to ignite my inspiration. And then you open it up, and it's all those things in that book that I showed you earlier in a smaller format. So it'll just be these little cards that illustrate my work. Not all of them are in there, but all of them are here on these cards. So you can see some like little designs that I did, little infographics. And of course, you saw that the Chirpins project, just in smaller, simpler form. Always highlight the concept of the project. I always write a paragraph about the concept. It's always leading it with that first, is that they need to know the thinking behind the art, the visuals. So that was super important. Oh, that was cool. I haven't seen this. This is a little wine project I did. I sold that. See that bag? Oh, see that bag? Hand sewed that thing. Then I printed on a home printer. That's funny. But yeah. So and then like these, I mean, all these projects that I did, so they can have it, and they can share it with other creative directors that are there when you're not there. They can, or they can just toss it. But in my case, I was fortunate that or create something that intrigued them enough that they were, excited to share. Let me check my time. Am I good on time? I don't even know what time it is. Okay, I got 20 minutes. Thank you so much. Yeah, so from there, I was able to get into like the like an interview and things like that, and share with them even further my process and work. Maybe I should take a little bit of time to answer some of your questions. So let me see some of that. How can you build a good portfolio site to share your work? Okay. No, the portfolio site is something that can be unique to you, but also amount of work that you want to show on there too. So it depends on the aesthetic. Like if you're a photographer, you show a certain way, but coming out of school, it depends on like how you really want to brand yourself too. For me, it was like I focus on a lot of just my school project at the time because that's all I have. So let me just speak to like the students in general. So you want to highlight the school projects that you have. I would pick from 8 to 12, no more than 12. That's a lot to kind of share on your site. And I would bucket them in areas of not just like, illustrator design, but if it's design skills, I would always lead it with your concept paragraph. I would build my first top four to be the highlight. This is like my best projects. But from those projects, I would try to show it in a 360 approach, not just like one beautiful poster or one beautiful project, but how this project can transfer across different mediums. So on your portfolio site, I would lead it with the concept and show the project, but then also show how that product or that item or that design that you have can have a 360 approach, and that ties back to your concept and idea. So that's how I would break it down. And then you can have like some of your art stuff, right? That you can show. So this is some cool one-offs that I did, some collabs that I did or whatever. But I would always hit it big with like a focus on 4 of your main projects that kind of define you as an artist, you as an art director, you as a copywriter. Maybe some copywriters kind of or they have a different kind of portfolio. It might not be an artful kind of things like this, but like what are some really heavy some heaters that you put out there with an article that you wrote for something, and how that transfer into different mediums from, this copy you wrote lived on a billboard, it lived on an app, it lived on social media. How did you broke that down in small sections on how consumers can relate to it? So I don't know if I answered that, but that's how I would break it down. But also think about how that one project can be expanded into a 360 approach, right? So when I talk about like 360, it can be everything. Just think about how the human interact with your product and your idea, or your art, right? Just think about how you would interact with it. So I talked about this chirpings, how I got a job with this thing. So it started with this packaging, but it started with this. I mean, everyone uses this, right? It's like a clothespin. So how do you like talk about 360 about this, right? So that was kind of weird, but I just wanted to expand it. So from this, I went into creating a website for it that spoke about environmental friendly habits, and then from that, develop an app to have people practice those practical habits of being environmental friendly. So thinking outside of just this. So that's something I would do when if I'm talking about building a portfolio, an online portfolio. So how do you tell that story like that? How does the work you make tell your own personal story? So that I share a little bit about like my portfolio, on how I share my personal story. So I hope I answered that part already. I can go back, but uh, probably not. But I hope I did. If you caught that part. Um, how important is collaboration to your work? Oh man, it's huge, right? I think it's huge for me. I might have some, uh, I don't think you can create amazing work in silo. Maybe you can, but I find that my work is okay in silo, and then you gotta have thick skin too, because like my first, I almost dropped out of school. Just bring that up. I almost drop out of school because man, I would present my work. I thought it was super dope. I spent like 4 straight days working on this project, and then I presented in front of the class, and my professor was like, "Dang, what are you thinking? That was whack. That was uh, there's what's dominant recessive. You use too many typefaces. This just whatever the heck were you thinking? It doesn't make any sense." But one of the things that it stuck with me, said the concept's good, but the design sucked, right? And I was just like, man, maybe this is not for me. But after that, I learned to reach out to my classmates and my small group. I mean, not my small group, but my peers and other uh, designers that was in the group, and just throw in my ideas and even talk to my professor about it, and it got better. My book got better, and even now I work at the agency level, we brainstorm as a whole, like it's a team. It's not just like one person. And sometimes, you might be afraid a little bit to speak up and talk about it, but if you throw out an idea, it might not be the best, but somebody else can catch it. That's why I love my Naomi team, because I can throw out a random idea, and then Yee would take it, and Ryan would take it, and then Justina would take it and make it pretty, and Julian would throw his mix in there, and then the sauce just being made. And then I just like, oh, okay, that was dope. I'm glad I spoke up. Or they did the same thing. We just bounced back and forth. So for me, I think it's super important. I went around a whole kind of journey, but it's super important to be collaborative. Don't be afraid. Have thick skin. It might be thin skin first, but then we take those blows. Hopefully, you build up some callus and stuff. And be stronger. Oh man, thanks for all these questions, y'all. Bring on school back. Stand out. Okay, trying. Why did you put so much dedication into care packages into employers that denied you? That's a good question, right? Like for me, it's almost like a pride thing too, because I was like, man, they don't know yet. They don't know who they denied. Like how dare you, kind of thing. But that's what kind of really drove me. Like you haven't seen it all. You haven't seen it all, so that's why you denied me. So let me show you. But even when they accepted me, I denied them back. So it was kind of like I was almost like a pride thing I did, but I I'm also because I just cared about the craft and the creativity and the art of doing it. I enjoy doing it, so I didn't take it like it was arduous or it was like hard work. It was just I was just like this because I want to do it. I want to show them that hey, this is something I can do, and it's up to you to accept it or not. But I wanted to have pride in my work. Um, Okay, how did tagging help your creativity? Oh yeah, I still do it. I mean, I don't do it today, but when how it helped me because it always helped. It helped me because when I was younger, it'd just be freehanding, right? But a lot of stuff was just like gang graffiti though. So, but what that helped me with is just being able to be free. I got some artwork up here, like around my house all the time, all over the place. But it helped me just to not be afraid to mess up. So the tagging when I was younger, that definitely helped me. Just I haven't. I mean, no one's even see any of my tag. Yeah, because that's tough. It was probably painted over years ago. But um, yeah, so inspirational. Thank you for millions. Okay, where can I find your classes online? I don't have any classes online. This is it. So it's a one-time thing. So you're not tuned in now. There's no master class on Captrue. Sorry about that. Uh, Let me see. Okay, I got 10 minutes, y'all. What's the youngest group you made a book for? That's a good question. What's the youngest age group you made a book for? I want to say, I think high schoolers is the youngest one that I've helped work book for. I think when most recent one, I mean, she did it all herself, and she got a job at Leo for a summer internship. Shout out to Sydney. She was great. Came in with her book, high school, and just kind of helped critique her book, and she ended up getting an internship at Leo Burnett for a summer. Um, so let me see. Do you start with a sketch? Myron, shout out to Myron. Um, do you start with a sketch? Yes, I always start with a sketch. That's always something. I've been sketching more with my iPad a lot more now. I still have my sketchbook. I still do all those things. Yes, I do. And do you research before you start? Yes, particularly if when I do a logo design. I do. I try to make sure that whoever logo design I'm doing it for, I want to make sure that there's a story behind it. Like what's the story about this brand? What's this? And so I can formulate that brand. But when I do the research, is that has it been done? Has this M logo? Has this T logo? Whatever star logo has it been done before? So I do the research. I search all over as much as I can on Google, and just look around, trying to see if it's done before. Is it licensed? Is it trademarked? Before I even start, what is your method to starting a project? It's concepting. That's with any project. I start with concepting uh, out the idea for it because that's always my North Star. I can always go back to it and wherever I'm at, there's a design, there's a look, the communication, does it align with the concept that we originally started with? Is it does it make sense still with the concept overall? Because if you don't you don't have that as a starting point, stuff's going to look all over the place and busy. So yeah. Um, I think is the framework. No, what's this? Is there a framework on how you do storytelling? Um, I think there is, right? I think there is a framework, but how I approach to it is like what is that story? Is it a personal story? Is it something that is fictional, something you made up? Things like that. But I try to I start with that, and then I think about on how people could relate to it in different mediums and formats. I think about that 360. How can my story be told in 360? Like I was going to do an art show on August 8th, and I was going to essentially walk you through my story through art expression. So I think about that first. I have the story kind of drafted out real quick, a short narrative, and then I think about the 360 approach. And at the end, I think about on how to where it's going to place. So I have a couple of slides here I want to share with you, just like before, because I have like maybe a few minutes from like all this stuff, and you see my cap true and my personal branding in school. I started a few things of rebranding, so I'm just going to share with you real quick. Let me know, and I'll just walk you through it a little bit. So, as you know, some of you know, like my branding is called Cap True. And Captrue, it's a long story about it, but it starts with my friend Yi. Shout out to Yi, just about being, because I always threw out this term about crazy Asian production, and how do we like draft that, but also being true to who we are. So that's what CIP stand for. I just spilled the beans to y'all. So Captrue means crazy Asian production, but staying true to your story and brand. And then how it lives in different ways, right? So this is kind of like a logo branding that I came up with. It's the birdfish from way back when in school, the narrative and the story behind the birdfish. The waves. There's waves and there's wind. It's similar to the bird and the fish. The blue representing the sky, the yellow and red representing the Vietnamese flag as who I am. The cap true in Old E is kind of like my old school nature. And then with the vector illustration, it's kind of like being in between the two worlds of like my life story, how I grew up and things like that. I grew up in like a lot of gang culture and the street culture, and old time OD lettering was something that resonated with me growing up. And then life means life is a whole other meaning in itself, but it can translate to whoever when you read it, right? You can think about it in a way that you can translate it however you want to translate it, but that's really represents me as a brand too. And then, I always recommend people to do their logo in black and white. You can see it there, how it translates into color before I even color it. I always start it in black and white, and hopefully the story still comes through. And then I played with it, like, what if I put through it on some swag? But your medium can be anything. Your medium can be a variety of things. It doesn't have to be just swag, but I think this is something, if young people out there right now checking it out, they can see it. They can see their product or their name on the on swag. So so I just want to just sum it all up. How this storytelling thing, how I approach it is you own your story. First, you own your story. You create the narrative for your story, right? And then you think about the 360 approach on how you want to, how people will interact with your story, how people can, touch, feel, smell, whatever, hear your story. Think about it from the human element perspective on how you would want to be interacting with a brand, a product, a story, or whatever, a brand. So the 360 approach is important for me. And then the medium in which you sharing your story, how you sharing your story. So think about, whether it, for me, like someone asked me, like, why did I think of doing the book? So that format can be different for you. So, so that's my four little things. So, my piece that I could, give to you guys today. But I do want to remind you about, the why we here is to support, Chicago youth and creating the prom event for them, of course, after the quarantine. Thank you for your questions on Slido. Shout out to them. And then, I think that's it. Make sure you donate. Make sure you check it out and give to a great cause, and make sure the youth of the city have prom when this whole thing is over with. Thank you. That's from Cap True. Peace.
Action and Taylor, the killer verses. I do on my foot in my city hurt. They killing our babies, this war going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Private schools for the kiddies. We the city, yeah, we litty. All I know is to swerve. With the heart, keep it busy. Know the life can be tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be a witness. SWorks handle business.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works.
Ready or not, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't finna none. We came in the party, we here for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Sky's the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, S work, do your thing. S work, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah. yeah, we up on the jib, north side, that's the way, ready or not, here we come, SWork, keep the energy, look, yeah, we never unplug, SWork, show some love.
Social works.